Forget all of the food rules and guidelines that you're probably drowning in from the online space, because I want to actually boil down in very simple terms nutrition and how to actually, through your nutrition, pack on muscle and stay lean in the most effective way possible. And it all comes down to 3 simple steps. And by the end of this video, you're actually going to be able to make a massive transformation in your body, even without tracking calories. So that's the amazing thing. I'm super excited to be able to dive into it. Welcome. If you're new here, my name is David with DadBod Fitness, and I would pose the question, right, of why should you listen to me? I mean, what do I actually know? Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist, so therefore you should probably just write me off, right? Okay, wait, though. Just don't actually do that. Before doing that, I just want you to hear this out. So after losing in total about 40 pounds and adding around 25 pounds of muscle to my body, I've then helped others do the same, including my wife, who actually just recently lost over 40 pounds. So I am not going to ask you to trust me blindly. I want you to be able to look at those results. And in addition, I actually want to share with you how it's not just me saying these things. This is not just based on my opinion. Down in the links, in the description below, you're going to see links to studies and research, some videos and articles, all showing you that this is not just me saying this. There's a lot of data to back this up, because the funny thing with nutrition is that it can just get very overly complex and it loses people very fast. Okay, so I'm not going to ask you, like I mentioned, to trust me blindly, but I want you to hear the impact of these 3 steps and then implement them for yourself and discover the power for yourself before even judging whether or not my opinion, based on all of this research, is correct as well. Put it into action and practice for yourself. But I would argue that you're more likely to actually fail with your nutrition and transforming your body if you're overcomplicating this, if you're making this too complex. Because when you follow all of these strict guidelines from, supposed gurus, which I understand the irony there, but when you get stuck in those areas, and oftentimes this happens when you're served an ad, right? How many ads have you been served recently? If you're in the, health and wellness field on YouTube, or you're watching those types of videos, how many of those ads have you been served with, this one secret thing that you need to be eating to actually get the abs, get the body that you used to have? Here's the top 5 foods that are killing your testosterone, where you've heard that one. Shred. And there's so many of these things out there, or demonizing very specific foods, saying you have to be eating these foods or don't be eating those foods. And in addition to all of it, there's usually supplements that go along with it. There's some sort of product they want you to sell. And I'm not against people making money through that way by any means. Supplements are super powerful. I love them. I use them myself. But I want you to remember is that you got to boil this down to what is actually necessary. What's going to get you that 80% of the result that you're looking for? And it's going to come through these 3 steps. Okay, the most impactful step that you can actually take for your nutrition is not to overcomplicate it. I want you to simplify, because when things get too complex, you're going to drop it. You're going to let it go. It's not going to be sustainable. And what we can say, I suppose you can't say it's 100% certainty, but what the research has overwhelmingly supported is that sustainability is what will get people results. Out of anything that we know, we can definitely look at all of the countless studies that have shown when someone finds something that is sustainable for them, they can stick with it over the long term. That's what actually yields them results, especially in terms of muscle building and fat loss. So why do we not want to overcomplicate it? Hopefully I've sold you on that already, why you don't want to overcomplicate it. But frankly, life is just too full. All of the strict rules make it ridiculously complex. So what I want you to do is, again, make it simple so that it's repeatable, that you can keep doing this. So in order to lay down these 3 steps, I need to first just kind of give you some really basic nutrition framework that's going to help support these ideas. And I think you're going to find a lot of a lot of value and questions that you've had answered along the way as we get to these 3 points. So first, I want to start with calories. What seems to be the age-old question, do calories matter? I mean, to me, it's funny that this is, funny is not the right word. I don't know. Irritating at times that this is still so highly, and I shouldn't say highly, hotly debated. It's fascinating to me. I mean, there's 2 very strong camps, but ultimately the research is pretty clear. Yes, calories matter. Energy balance is going to make an impact. Now, do the foods that you're eating matter? Yes, absolutely. Foods that you're eating matter, but it all comes back to how many calories that our body actually needs to fuel itself. And when you're over consuming those calories, no matter what form, you're going to be storing body fat. And when you're under eating, you're going to be losing body fat. Or you might be even gaining or losing muscle in there, depending on some things we're going to talk about a little bit later. Okay. So the real question is, if calories matter, people always want to know, do you actually have to track them? Which, frankly, a lot of people don't want to think about tracking them. And I don't blame them. For most people, I would probably actually advise not to track them. So the good news is that even though calories matter, you don't have to track calories. You can make insane and very significant transformation in your body simply by doing these 3 rules that we're going to be getting into. But what I will say is that tracking calories, if you are tracking, the great thing is that it's data. It's just data feeding into the system, your fitness, system, so to speak, that's going to allow you to be able to get to your goal faster. Because the more data that you have coming in, the more tweaks that you can make, the faster you can make those tweaks and those changes, and the faster you're going to see the results that you want. So even though you don't have to, for those that are tracking calories, you've now got extra data coming into your system to help you get there quicker. So if you are actually tracking calories, a lot of people come up to this question, and this matters to an extent whether you are or whether you aren't actually tracking calories. And that's the question of, do macros matter more than calories? So what's a macro? If you don't know macro, quick lesson in that is a macronutrient, and then there's micronutrients. Micronutrients are all those vitamins and minerals and all the different things that we're going to be finding within our fruits and vegetables and meats and all sorts of things that help fuel our body properly. But the macronutrients are the big, in layman's terms, the big pieces of the puzzle, the proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, the main pieces that our body runs on. So in terms of protein, we obviously know that protein is probably going to be pretty vital. Carbs tend to be, give or take. Some people go low carb, some people go high carb. All depends on your energy balance needs and all those types of things. And then fat, of course, which is also, my kids just got back from an event and they have some very delicious looking things as here we are talking about food. Okay, so the macros are going to make an impact. So the real question is, which is very nice. That is amazing. Which is going to be the most impactful, because which comes first, macros or calories? So here's what the data is actually going to back up. Ultimately, calories are going to be matter. That's kind of our umbrella to look at all of this, because you need to be eating within your caloric needs, within whatever amount of energy that your body needs to maintain, lose, or to actually increase weight. Now, in terms of the macros, what I then want you to think about is that's kind of the next layer underneath, because yes, we've got this umbrella of calories, but the macros are what's actually going to make up those calories. And what's interesting about the macros is that although energy balance will determine weight loss or gain, the macros are what's going to actually determine your body composition, the makeup of your weight loss, maintenance, or gain. And what's very powerful is there's one macronutrient in particular that is going to make a massive difference in how you lose weight. And I really want to emphasize that towards the end here. So ultimately, your energy balance is going to determine weight loss. Macros do so matter. So ultimately, you got to look at calories first, but the macros need to be set up so that you can succeed with your goals, whether it be weight gain or loss, in terms of those calories. So hopefully that makes sense. Drop a comment down below or a question if you want to dive deeper into this topic, because I'd love to flesh this out even more for any of you that have more questions. And here I am drinking, this time not out of my Christmas tree mug. This is now my Cat in the Hat mug with some delicious Ticino. Hopefully you guys have heard me mention Ticino, but it's like a dandelion root coffee. It's basically coffee, but there's no caffeine, which is why I'm drinking it at 8:45 at night, because it's not going to affect my sleep. So energy balance, kind of went over that. Energy balance does matter for weight loss, but to avoid, here's the problem. This is really the crux of it, right? This is why you're here. Energy balance does matter for weight loss, but how do you avoid all the complexity that can bring with it? Thinking about calories, which foods should I be eating, all that type of stuff. So in order to do that, let's now bring in these 3 principles that I really want to emphasize. Okay, number 1, of all of things that you are doing, the first one that it's a very easy thing to start implementing. Anybody can do it. Most people aren't doing it enough. And that's simply just drinking enough water. Water has a massive impact on our body. Our body needs water for different reactions and things happening within our system. And again, I'm going to give you this in layman's term. I am no biology major or chemist. But ultimately, this is not a great analogy. Every analogy fails in some degree. But you can think of it like oil for a car, in essence. Although our body's made up of far more oil. Our body's made up of far more water than a car would be, obviously, of oil. But an oil in a vehicle allows it to run efficiently and smoothly, and all the processes that need to happen within a vehicle. Water, in a way, is the same thing. Because, did I mention? I can't remember if I mentioned it, but our body's made up of at least around 70% of water. That's what's pretty insane. Hopefully I got that stat right. I believe I do. But the bottom line is we need water. What's fascinating too is I believe the number is actually just a 3% decrease. I'm probably going to butcher the numbers. Take these with a grain of salt, but it's around this. With a 3% decrease in our, I'm going to butcher it. Here's the bottom line. The bottom line is that if you are slightly dehydrated. No, I think it is that 3% slightly dehydrated, then that in turn is going to translate to a far greater percentage of decrease in strength, which is fascinating. So if nothing else, just know that when you're drinking water, you're actually allowing your performance to be better when you're training with weights. And if you're not training with weights, you probably are if you're watching this channel. I want you to. And I've got some great resources that you can check in the description down below. If you need a free program that's super powerful that my wife used to actually make a massive transformation, that's down there for you if you don't have a program. So that's the power of water. Now, what else is water going to do? If you just keep water with you, our body sometimes will send us a signal that we're hungry, even if we've already eaten. And a lot of times it's actually a signal of dehydration, but the signals get mixed and we don't always know how to interpret them in our very highly processed and highly palatable, food world that we live in right now. So it's very easy to get those signals mixed. So what's fascinating is, I was actually just telling someone recently this, is that there's been so many times where I've eaten dinner and 20 to 30 minutes later, almost like clockwork, I feel hungry again. And I'm sitting here going, I know I'm not hungry. This is ridiculous. I literally just ate. So what do? I actually go and grab my water bottle, my trusty giant big glass water bottle. If you want this one, I do have a link for this down in the description. It does go to help support this channel in a very small way, but I highly recommend this because I like it so much. Scott, my kids love this. Isn't that fun? They constantly are opening it. It's got a straw in there too. Anyways, I love that. I carry that around with me, but I would grab my water bottle, drink a bunch of water, give myself 10 to 15 minutes, and the hunger goes away. It wasn't actually that I was hungry. I was simply just thirsty. So in particular, if you're struggling with cravings and snacking and reaching for things that you feel like you shouldn't be reaching for, or you feel that might be hurting your goals, just simply start with water. It's going to keep your satiety levels up, and it's also going to help prevent you from getting mixed signals, thinking you're hungry, then grabbing food when you don't actually need it. Okay, number two. Number two, I want you to not cut out foods. I don't want you to eliminate things. But what I do want you to do is you're going to include more whole foods. You're going to include things that have, as one of my new acquaintance here, Adam Bro, give him some love over on YouTube. He's another dad, great guy, trainer, very worthy of many. What am I trying to say? Many applause, much applause. I can't talk tonight. I didn't get a lot of sleep, but he's done a lot in terms of training and getting people some insane transformation. So I've been super grateful to get connected with him. But in his words, which I love the way he puts it, you want to eat things that have fallen off a tree, grown out of the ground, swam in the ocean, walked on the land. So obviously, what am I talking about? I'm talking about whole foods, unprocessed foods, things that you can get on the perimeter of the grocery aisle and that are going to be fresh things that are one ingredient. So think sweet potatoes, rice, beef, chicken, eggs, broccoli, carrots. I mean, the list can go on, right? Those foods are going to, when you're including them in your diet, it makes it insanely simple for you, because now you don't have to think about, I need to not eat that. I need to not eat that. Oh, this is bad. Now, are certain foods better or worse for your fitness goals? Sure. Am I going to want to sit there and label them as bad or good? I don't really want to. Do you? All we have to simply do is include other things that are going to naturally push those out of your diet. And again, hopefully you know where my stance is. I still include some of those foods, even when I'm trying to lose weight. But if you're in a spot where you've actually struggled to lose weight or struggled to get to the body that you want, it can be very helpful to include a lot more of these foods. Don't directly cut those other foods out, just to include more fruits, vegetables, meats in particular, whole foods. These things are going to be far more satiating because of the additional water content, fiber content, nutrient content, and also because of our third and final step that we're getting to very soon. So the bottom line that I want you to walk away with is that there are no magic foods. If you want to know that there's a magic food, it's simply eating unprocessed food, because once they put processing in it, obviously companies, I'm not going to sit here and try and demonize companies. They make some great products that taste awesome, but they're also very palatable and very high in calories and can cause us to gain a lot of weight and overeat, because it messes up all of our hunger signals. It messes up our ghrelin and our leptin levels, just two in particular. So again, I'm not going to demonize, food companies that are out to make money and have a good product, but we do need to realize that once they process them, it makes them highly palatable through literal scientific combinations of fat, salt, and I can't remember the other one. But anyways, that combination that will make them highly palatable, because you can think about one of the highest satiety, one of the foods that is highest on the satiety scale is basically a plain potato. And now it's plain because, when you go to a restaurant, what do they do to it to make it like insanely good? Dump butter on it, dump a bunch of salt on it, oils, bacon, sour cream. I mean, the list goes on, right? So that's why we got to be a little bit more careful of those if you've been in a place where you're struggling. But again, it's not about cutting it out. It's about including these other things that, as you are including, you're just going to naturally find, oh, if I prioritize those, I end up realizing that I just don't have room physically in my stomach to fit the other foods that are more highly palatable. Or even better yet, you still get to have those other foods, but you're just eating a little bit less of them, and it's less of an issue for you. And then you're getting more of the micronutrients that your body actually needs in order to be able to perform optimally, so that you can be in the healthiest state that you need to be. So number 3, this is the one I know I've been teasing this all along, but number 3 is actually, say it with me, hopefully protein. My kids get so sick of me saying eat protein every morning. It's always, well, even more than in the morning. I'm like, guys, have you had a little bit of protein? Have you had some meat? Have you had some eggs, yogurt, something to have protein? I want their bodies are massively growing right now, right? So I want them to make sure that they're getting enough. And it's so easy to not do it. The standard American diet. Even the recommended daily allowance for protein is pitifully low. And what protein will do, there's so many benefits to protein. First off, if you want to transform your body and get leaner, you're going to want to have a little muscle mass on you. To have a little muscle mass, you got to be lifting, but in order to feed that stimulus, so you're breaking down muscle, in order to feed that, you've got to have protein. That protein is actually going to provide all of the essential amino acids that you need to then build back that muscle stronger, better, so that you start building muscle. So that's really the biggest reason we need to think about protein. The other amazing thing is that protein has something called it has the highest rate of TEF, which is thermic effect of food. Sounds very sciencey, don't I? I got my nerdy glasses on, but all that's essentially saying is the amount of energy that it requires for your body to actually break down that food. Gives thermic effect of food. It gives off heat because it's being broken down, and your body has to work a little bit harder to break down protein than it does. I believe carbohydrates is next, and fat is the lowest. Now, there's other benefits to those other two, but in terms of caloric, what I should here I go again. In order to have better energy balance, could you get a slight higher caloric burn by eating protein, more protein? Yes, it's going to be pretty small, but regardless, every little bit counts, right? So that's why you want to be eating protein for a second reason. Excuse me. The third reason that you're going to want to be eating protein is for its satiety effects. Protein is by far the number one most satiating food. And so when you include that, even within a meal, if you start with, well, here's how I do it. Some people will tell you to eat the protein, the vegetable, then your carbohydrate. My own way of doing it, ultimately, they're going to get you about the same result, is I prefer to eat my vegetables first. Sometimes I mix them with my meats. So I eat my vegetables first, then I'll eat my protein. Then that's starting to digest the fiber from the vegetables and all the micronutrients, and then the satiety effect of the protein. All of that's going to cause you to feel more full. Your ghrelin, which is like your hunger hormone, your body will elevate ghrelin when it wants you to eat. That will start to, that's going to decrease. You're going to feel more. And then leptin is like your satiety hormone. Leptin's going to start to increase, telling your body that, yep, I'm full, I'm good. No more eating. And then you're going to get to your carbohydrate, and you may or may not need it. In particular, if you're, drinking a little bit of water with all of this as well. So that's a really cool way that you can very simply start to impact your body transformation just through protein. So protein. I can't say it enough. Now, here's what I do want to focus on, because what I wanted to mention is that this brings me back to macros and calories. So what should you do with them? So if you are tracking calories, now even if you're not, I still want you to hear this out because it's important. If you're tracking macros and calories, to do with them, you just want to focus on the protein, because the protein is the biggest staple that you want to have. Now, the typical recommendations, how much protein is enough? That question gets thrown around so much, but essentially, the vast majority of research has really come to a consensus on 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound. Excuse me, I am so sorry. Per pound of lean mass. Now, what's lean mass? Essentially, it's just your weight less the body fat that you're carrying. Lean mass. I mean, it's going to include organs. Yes, it's going to include muscle, all that type of stuff. That's going to get really complex to try and calculate, and you probably won't ever get an accurate measurement, in particular at home. So all I want you to think about doing is just go 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. Now, if you're really overweight, you don't need to worry about that. All I want you to do is try to get 4 to 5, we can even say 3 to 5 solid servings of protein throughout the day. Now, and if you're around the three servings range, I always tell people it's about the size of your fist. Then you also want to include a protein shake, because that's going to really help make sure that you're actually getting enough. You'll be shocked. You tend to always undereat protein. And that alone can make a massive difference in actually getting the results that you want, because those macros are going to impact how your body actually loses weight. If your protein is too low, and your calories are under the needs, or even if they're at maintenance level and your protein is just too low, your body's going to have a harder time maintaining the muscle that you have, and especially trying to add more muscle if you are trying to add muscle. So that's why you want to keep those protein needs high. Now, carbohydrates, you can kind of land where they may. Fats, I don't ever want anyone, and a dietitian would tell you this, all of the data would tell you this, fats are essential for healthy hormonal function. So you want to keep those at a minimum as 25% of your calories. Again, if you're tracking calories. So basically know that if you're including a little bit of fat within each meal, if you're not tracking, include a little bit of fat in each meal, solid sorts of protein. Make sure you got some vegetables so you have some fiber in there. Fiber is incredibly satiating. Then let the carbohydrates fall where they may based on your satiety. You're going to be in a golden spot, I'm telling you. Now, this process takes time, so I want you to remember, just start implementing these things. See what they do for you. See how it affects you mentally, that you're not hyper-focused on trying to cut certain foods out. And the power of it is going to be incredible. So why is this the most effective? These 3 steps can massively change your body because they're so simple. I mean, we got to keep it simple. I can tell you firsthand, and I know you feel this as well, when life is chaotic, when life is full, I've watched so much content and I'm sitting there going, I literally don't have time to try and dissect what you're saying here. And I don't have time. I'll give you an example here. One of the YouTubers that I used to watch, which I actually started watching again, a little teaser. He's made quite a shift, and a video is going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. So look for that one. It's going to be very eye-opening and powerful. But at the time, he used to highly recommend fasting and breaking your fast in all sorts of particular ways, like spiking your insulin with a very specific type of food. Then you got to wait 30 minutes. Then you got to eat, another carbohydrate, but combine it with some fats and protein. It just got insanely complex. And on top of that, talking about all these different mechanisms that are involved with body fat storage. And if you eat certain foods, it's going to store more fat. And bottom line was it's majoring in the minors. And I don't want you to major in the minors, because are there certain mechanisms that function within our body that are going to cause certain things to happen? Yes. But we also have to remember there's 1,000 other variables that go into those mechanisms. So even if you learn something on social media or on a YouTube video or online that says, oh, if you're going to lose more fat if you do fasted cardio, which hopefully that myth is dying, you can know that, sure, they might see that in a short term within lab results or, the study that is being, done on those subjects. But the fact of the matter is that it's the whole picture. It's all of the variables that are going into that. It's not just, did you or did you not do fasted cardio? So that's why we have to just keep making this simple. Simple is the only thing I can preach to you over and over again. But if you are really looking to actually lose fat, I want you to actually watch this video here. If you're watching on the replay, if you're watching live or, in the next 24 hours, it might not be there, but hopefully it's there. But if you are looking to lose fat, what's cool is you're going to learn some really easy fat loss hacks that I wish I had learned so much sooner. But as always, bring the intensity, be intentional. Thank you for being here, and I'll hopefully see you over there on the next video.